Hello! Welcome back to the channel. My name is Melanie and I am super jazzed to be here as always. Today we're going to get into harvesting some oregano. We have 8 plants and they're pretty big, but that's cool because I wanted to not only have oregano for eating, I want to dry and process some oregano for a witchcraft, but also potentially making an extraction, so something along the lines of oil of oregano. I am looking at getting a cold press or other kind of hydraulic presses for extractions. For today, however, I am just going to show you how I like to harvest our oregano. There's not a lot of areas that you can go wrong when it comes to harvesting oregano. You cut it off close to the root, close to the ground, close to the dirt. You clear about 2-3 inches of the leaf off of the stem, then you wrap them in bundles and hang them to dry. Some people like to do it in the oven or in dehydrators because it's a little bit faster. When you do it that way though, you are exposing the terpenes and the flavonoids in the plant that carry all of the flavor as well as all of the medical benefits. You're exposing those chemicals to very high temperatures. Those high temperatures dry out and dehydrate the plant faster, yes, but it also has potential and often does burn off the flavonoids and the terpenes, which is why we use oregano in the first place, for the flavor, for the medical and health benefits, the vitamins, the minerals. All of those things kind of degrade and disappear if they're exposed to too high of temperatures. That's why if you have the time and you can be patient, it's usually best just to hang them to dry and let time and well circulated air do the job for you. Depending on the type of oregano you have and your weather, more often than not, you can get 2 harvests out of an oregano plant. I say that tentatively only because sometimes a weather change happens and you don't get a full second harvest. The first harvest is always the most abundant and the most plentiful, but there is potential for a second harvest off these plants. As you can see, some of them are close to going to flower. We don't want the oregano plants to start producing a flower because then all of the energy and life force goodness that is in this oregano plant then goes into that flower and its attention is on reproducing, which takes away the nutrients and its energy in other areas. Everything is harvested. My basket is so full, but I wanted to show you what the bed looks like after I've taken all the oregano out. Look how much goodness we have. I'm intending to turn this into an herb processing area, and if it were complete or at least semi-complete with something that resembled a table, I would be doing all of this oregano prep in that shed. However, all of this lovely good stuff is going to be prepped over here in the greenhouse. I think we had a successful oregano harvest, guys. I think we have 2 different types of oregano. I was not aware of growing 2 different types of oregano, so nor did I notice the whole time that they were growing. I don't know if that makes me a bad gardener. Probably. Maybe I'm just crazy. Am I the crazy oregano lady now? But look at the differences. This one's got a bunch of tiny little leaflets that come off, and this guy here is just one long stalk. Not to mention the size difference. You're going to need your string. You will still need your scissors for cutting said string. You're going to need a table workspace that is large enough that you can lay out your oregano, and perhaps a bucket for the excess leaves that you will get from stripping your oregano strands like this. Waste not, right? Like, I try my hardest not to just throw those perfectly good oregano leaves away just because they're in the last 2 inches of the stem and have some dirt on them. So if there's a way to use them, I will. If not, they go straight back into just compost. So all of the smaller oregano, like these little bits here, I'm just going to set aside. Try and keep their butt ends relatively together. This makes it a lot easier for you when you're gonna go in with the string. But the beginning process for me is just separating and sorting by size. It's really annoying when you are drying oregano to put small little guys like this in the same bundle as something as large as this. It just gets awkward to tie. So separating them by size is my first step. I'm really excited to have that witchy herbal apothecary style processing building that I am planning at the moment, because working in the greenhouse in the middle of July sure is sweaty and hot. I've been in here for maybe 10 minutes just sorting out the different sizes and lengths of oregano stems, and man, could I have a drink. Being involved in the process of growing your own herbs and being able to witness and see their change, their growth cycles, what they look like coming out of the ground, observe the natural qualities and the natural patterns in the oregano's life process, or in whatever herb you're harvesting life process, is originally where all of the magical correspondences for herbs came from. It was the observation, the watching of natural cycles, learning from nature. It's what magic was and what it, at its roots, has huge connections to, right? You use rose in love, but it can also be used in protection because it has thorns. These are very physical and literal interpretations. It's not that back in the day they understood the chemical makeup of oregano and that's why they deemed it and used it for what they did. It's that when they grew oregano and they watched oregano and they spent time getting to know that plant medicine, getting to know the essence of a plant, I guess, or the personality of the plant, that's what they observed over time, and that's what developed the magical correspondences to plants. And I believe herbalism was very similar in its development back in the day. They basically, herbalism and learning was just the power observation, just like science, right? You watch how something behaves, you watch how it grows, you watch how the human body reacts when someone eats something, and then you don't eat what Fred ate if he ends up dead. It's very simple, but we so often overcomplicate or, just like overdo the intensity of something that was just so natural for us back in the day. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe I just take growing oregano a little bit too philosophically. Before you go and look up or Google the correspondence or the properties of a plant, it's always best to walk yourself through the 5 senses and observe the plant that you are looking into. So, what does it smell like? What does it look like? And start taking notes on just your observations of this plant and start to form and come to your own tentative idea, whether that's using your intuition or your 5 senses, like I said, of what that plant's properties are. And I like this method both in a magical sense, like a rosebush or oregano. Is it protective? Is it spiky? What does it look like? What does it smell like? How does it make me feel? And take note of your personal connections to the plant that you're working with before you look up the actual chemical compounds or what it's used for in herbalism. Just allow yourself to record, take some time, and kind of form your own thoughts and opinions on the plant before you go looking to be told about the plant. And it's not about really being right or wrong in this situation. It's not about being able to properly guess that, I don't know, mint is a bronchodilator or whatever. It's not about being able to guess the individual components of a plant. It's about being able to start practicing observing and taking in the information about a plant, you know? And that extends to like, what does this plant make you feel? What does your intuition tell you about a plant? This is where the magical work kind of comes in. If you have a really bad memory of a specific plant, but you want to use it in a protection spell or something like that, then it's not the most effective for you, right? We often like turn to YouTube or the internet or Google or whatever, or books or other people's opinions and other people's experiences far before we take the time to form our own opinions and to evaluate what we think of a plant or anything, really. We now have all of our oregano separated into relative piles of size because I have the basement of our house that is nice and has a lot of air circulation without direct sunlight. I can afford to make smaller individual bundles because I have the space for them. If you are a little concerned about space and saving space, I wouldn't have a bundle that's bigger than this. The issues you start to run into would be poor air circulation, your leaves are touching, they don't dry properly. You want to make sure that the air can circulate through the individual leaves as well as the different stems. You don't want to have a massive bundle because then it's not going to dry properly or evenly, and it'll probably take a lot longer to dry at all. Now what I do, which is what this comes in handy for, is I go through and I'll strip the bottom 2 inches of leaves off. You do this just for ease of drying. You want to be able to actually get a good tight knot around the base of these stems. Another reason why I like to do this is because it makes cleaning them a lot easier. Because you get to be involved hands-on, literally hands in the dirt the whole way, I think that's what provides you the opportunity to instill and cultivate magic in your everyday life. If you are here because of your interest in herbalism or using herbs in witchcraft, then I would say take any opportunity you can to work with the plants that you are using. Whether you are into herbalism because of magic and because you like the correspondence and you want to be self-sufficient that way, or because you're here for the medical benefits, that aspect of herbalism as well. The fact that oil of oregano is incredible during cold and flu season, that it has antibodies and terpenes and flavonoids that are incredibly healthy for your system. All of those different reasons are great reasons and attributing factors, I think, in most people's decision to grow their own herbs. especially in the magical world or the pagan communities where they use plants like this in so many aspects of their practice, their spiritual development, I think allowing yourself the time and space to form your own thoughts and opinions about a plant or anything in life before you turn to somebody else that you idolize as a guru to tell you all about it, you know? Like, what do you think oregano is good for? How do you feel after you eat a lot of oregano? What does the smell remind you of? Especially in the spiritual practice of herbalism or witchcraft, using herbs, forming your own correspondences with plants, your own relationship with plants is just as important as looking up the actual uses for that plant. I hope that makes sense. I've also enjoyed having oregano in the garden because it is a semi-winter hardy plant, so it started to grow, bloom, and flourish long before any of the other herbs or vegetables in the garden were all ready to be harvested. That way, it kind of spaces out the processing and harvesting work. It's not like harvesting all of your gourds and pumpkins within the same week when late September or August hits, you know? You've got, like I'm doing this just on a random Wednesday afternoon, nothing else in the garden other than some red currants need to be processed it. And maybe if I was feeling proactive, I could process some kale chips, but other than that, the only thing that needs to be harvested at this time of year is the oregano. So it's a nice herb, especially with the altitude that our property is at, for us to grow. I'm not the person, if this is not your first time to the channel, I'm sure you would notice by now that I'm not one to measure things precisely. And if I feel a bundle and it feels thick enough, then I decide that it's thick enough. There's no real science to it, so I'm sorry I can't tell you exactly how many stems to put in one bundle, but feel it out, guys. Feel it out. Now on to the next step. It's real simple. Hang your oregano. So the oregano that is the longer stuff, this is why this is another reason at least why I enjoy separating them into just general lengths. The oregano bundles that are a little bit longer, you can make the rope a little bit shorter if you want them all to hang at an even height. If you don't care about that, then ignore that. Sometimes I care about those things, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's nice to organize your hanging bundles in a bit of a pattern from long to short, long to short, long to short, so that the bundles themselves aren't actually hanging right next to any other bundle. It just allows for a little bit more airflow, and it lets you squeeze them into a bit more of a tight space that way as well. How you knot it is up to you. I usually just do a couple wraps around and tie a really loose knot. That way I can potentially reuse the rope again. Especially when you're going to be drying a lot of herbs and you know you're going to be going through quite a few rolls of rope. If you are processing herbs, oregano, whatever, for magical purposes, I've seen and heard of people doing knot magic in the knots themselves when they're actually just hanging up and drying their herbs. So if you want to do 3 knots, 9 knots, however you like to work your knot magic, this is a piece of rope connected to your herb that you're drying and charging up with the intent to be magically badass later on. So it seems like an opportune moment to utilize some knot magic. that is it, guys. They're all hung and appropriately bunched. Now I'm just going to go and find them somewhere nice to dry. If my little witch hovel herbal cabinetry prep area was good to go, I would hang them in there. However, I have a basement that'll work just as good. Remember to hang them in a place that does not get direct sunlight. Direct sunlight is a bit too hot for them. It'll burn off some of those flavonoids and terpenes, but it'll also bleach the actual leaves. So you want somewhere with good air circulation, relatively cool, that they can just hang out there and let time do its thing. I am super jazzed to be getting this first tamTERRA vlog out to you guys. I hope you have a fantastic summer. I will see you very shortly with something else going on. Let me know in the comments below if you're harvesting anything yet. I would love for you to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and remember to subscribe so I can see you again in another little tamTERRA vlog adventure. That's it. Bye, guys.